Bullshit man. I was recently offered a job and was informed in one of the interviews that they used the Hubbard management system. I then did some more research online and found out that the owners of the business are big Scientology donors. Needless to say, I was quite wary and declined the job. I would like to know how the Hubbard management system is used in these organizations, and does it differ significantly from how Scientology itself is run? What are the differences? Is there any real benefit or positives of the Hubbard management system? What are the negatives? Okay, good question. Basically, there is a Scientology front group, which is called the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, or WISE. And this group was established in the late 1970s because L. Ron Hubbard felt that outside businesses that were run by Scientologists were preying on the orgs and were taking org staff and getting them to come and work at their Scientology, or not their Scientology companies, but their companies, whatever products or services they were selling. And they were utilizing, of course, Hubbard's policies in these businesses. There is a whole, gaggle of L. Ron Hubbard policies, and they've been divided up into various books based on each division of Scientology's organizing board. And I'm not going to get into a whole treatise on that. There will eventually be a whole video on it in my Basics of Scientology series. In short, the organizing board is a 7-division org structure, and there's like a communications division and a dissemination or promotion division and a treasury division. There's all these different divisions that have different functions, which are all supposed to work together to produce the overall product of the organization. When Scientologist staff members who are trained on Hubbard's policies because they're staff go work outside businesses which are run by Scientologists, they thought, well, why aren't we applying the same rules and guidelines there? That's kind of how that started. But it wasn't, WISE evolved into selling people Hubbard's management system. The first reason it came into existence was to get Scientologists to stop grabbing up org staff members and putting them into their organizations. People who want to use Hubbard's management system have to pay the Church of Scientology basically a royalty fee through the World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, which presents itself as uses Hubbard's management system, but they don't call it Scientology, see? Anyway, it's just a front group. Now, as far as the system itself goes, basically what they do is they take the basic policies of L. Ron Hubbard, the most simple stuff. They've secularized it. They've literally gone through Hubbard's policies and they've taken out any references to Scientology-specific jobs or Scientology-specific lines or things that Hubbard made comments about in the policy letters that might not necessarily be directly applicable to the point being made, because Hubbard would sometimes get diarrhea of the mouth and run off on communists or, other historical nonsense or current political things, or, he'd enter comments into the policies that didn't really, strictly speaking, have much to do with them. Now, the kind of things I'm talking about with the basic policies of how a Scientology organization is run overall would include things like the communications or dispatch system. There's a room in every Scientology organization called the Comm Center. And there's a basket for every single staff member to receive written dispatches and communications. And there's a comm runner. And then, not only is there the Comm Center centrally located, but then you also have in each division, which is basically a location in the organization, you'll have a divisional comm center, and each staff member has a 3-basket system on their desk, an in, an appending, and an out basket. And any communications the staff member receives go into the in basket within 24 hours. Per policy, he's supposed to look at the dispatch, either handle it, or if it can't be handled right away, do whatever he's doing with it, maybe because it's a longer term order that he's got to do and he's got a week to do it. And he sticks it in his pending basket, and that's the stuff that's waiting to be done. And you should see most staff members' pending baskets. They're like, I've seen staff members with literally the in basket is sitting on top of the pile because it got so big it just pushed the in basket up. And then there is the out basket. When you finish an order, let's say, you're supposed to write done on it. And then you're supposed to actually report compliance to that order by attaching some kind of proof that you've completed the order and sending it then back to the originator of the order. And ideally, according to Hubbard policy, this should all be handled in writing, not verbally. You shouldn't have the senior coming to you and giving you these demands or orders. This is one of those places where that Hubbard policy about if it isn't written, it isn't true, comes into play organizationally. Verbal orders are frowned on, even though they happen every day, all day. Per policy, they're not supposed to be. Everything's supposed to be in writing. That way there's no confusion, no fuss, no muss when it comes to what was the order and did you comply to it. And all this, and there's supposed to be paper trails for all this stuff. So orgs tend to be paper factories. There's just tons of paper used for all these orders and dispatches flying around. Plus, of course, you have telexes, and those are usually printed out and also, which are basically the equivalent of emailed orders or communications. And those also go in these baskets. So that's just one part of the system. I believe that setting up the whole comm system throughout the organization and making sure everybody has the 3-basket system, they know how to use it, and that there's somebody handling the job of comm runner who's routing all these pieces of paper around to the various places that they need to go. That's somebody gets that job. So that's one of the first things. The way the Hubbard management system is implemented is in phases. There are steps to it. So the comm system establishment is one phase. I'm not fully familiar with all the phases of it. This was all happening kind of on the periphery. I observed this happening, and I saw some of the wise books on how to do what they do. But my experience, of course, was always directly in Scientology organizations, more so than in the WISE companies. But I know that other things that they do set up are a statistics system. That's a big thing, huge thing, where everybody is supposed to get assigned to them one or more production statistics, which measure how much you're producing on your job. And any job can be staticized. You can come up with some kind of a production statistic to measure, is a person producing, and then and can that be compared to what they were producing last week, and is it more or less? And sometimes you have to get a little creative about it. I mean, you might have people on an assembly line is easy, just number of, widgets that they produced, right? Or number of, if they were quality control and their job was to inspect the product line, then their job, their statistic would be number of successful or correctly qualified or not qualified, but inspected pieces. Or it could even be number of inspected pieces rejected. But of course, you wouldn't really want to have that. You really would want to have more that they were successfully gotten through the line, because otherwise they might if they started false reporting their statistic, then they'd just be kicking back things that were actually okay, and just to get their stats up. So you want to come up with statistics in such a way that they can't really be falsified, or be frowned on if they were falsified in some fashion. And that's part of the cleverness of trying to figure out what the statistic is. Even a security guard, let's say, could have a statistic of the number of, or either number of hours, in a weekly period, number of secure hours, you could say, right? And ideally, that would just be floating right across the top. If the guy worked 40 hours a week, then it would be 40, 40, 40, but that's sort of the top. He can't get any more than 40, right? So he's maxed out. But if there was an incident and somebody came in and, tried to rob the place, or there was some kind of other, thing that the security guy had to handle, then he might, the number of secure hours might come down, because his job is to keep the place secure, not get involved in, if he has to go handle something, then that means there was a period of time where the place wasn't secure, and that would be the reasoning behind it. This is all sort of Hubbard think. I'm not endorsing this or saying this is all a great idea. I'm just telling you how it works. So any job can be staticized. Another phase is setting up the organizing board. I think that's also another early phase, maybe even before the production statistics come in, where you work out what the divisions of the organization are according to Hubbard's theory of communications, dissemination, treasury, production, quality, and public facing or servicing the field. And then, of course, the Division 7 is the executive division. So anyway, figuring that whole thing out and figuring out, what everybody's job is and that sort of thing, what their products are, what is it that each person should be producing, all of this stuff sort of rolls forward. And I would never recommend a system like this. I mean, you might think the comm system sounds fine. I don't know. I mean, maybe you think that, but it really creates as many problems as it solves. And the statistics problem is a huge problem because it focuses everybody's attention on only doing their thing and not helping other people or not working with other people necessarily unless it's going to contribute directly and immediately to their statistic. You're keeping statistics on a weekly basis, even on a daily basis, and you can assign quotas, and it seems like it makes sense that you would want, ever increasing production or, for a ceiling of production to be reached and maintained. But the stress and the like agony that comes with with administering it, monitoring it, you then have the conditions, formulas. Hubbard's ethics technology starts coming into this, and things can get really abusive really fast. It's actually kind of scary how fast it happens. So that is why I say ixnay on the Hubbard system. Anyway, those are a little bit of what I can tell you about it. Maybe at some point I should do a whole video on the whole thing, but I would have to do a lot more study, so that's what I can tell you for now.